Am I the jerk for the way I reacted to my brother? I went to visit my brother at his house and found him rummaging through my things without my permission. I got upset and asked him to stop, but he laughed it off and said he was just looking for something. I felt disrespected and told him to leave me alone. Now he's upset with me and won't talk to me. Am I the asshole for standing up for my boundaries? I honestly do not know what to do anymore. Every time my family gets together, mainly when my brother, 30 years old male, and dad, 60 years old male, are in the same room, my brother ends up doing something that hurts my feelings or being straight up disrespectful. Yet my dad always tells me to ignore it and be more gentle towards him because he is sensitive. Recently, my brother came over and I opened the door for him. He said out loud, your hair just because I let it be natural and curly instead of straightening it." Of course, I got offended and upset because it was uncalled for. My dad, of course, tells me to be mature and take a joke, basically to just let him treat me horribly again. I go into a quiet mood, then they both basically ignore my existence and act like I am being dramatic. My brother and I went out food shopping after 30 minutes or so. He starts saying that he already said sorry and that I basically need to get over it. I try to explain why it made me feel bad, and he just argued back for ages, which obviously makes it worse. As we were walking down the street, I tell him he sounds like our sister we do not have contact with anymore, because she would gaslight in a similar way. He says, "FK off," and leaves me in the street alone. After an hour of staying out because I could not bear the thought of going back home, knowing they would both gang up on me, I returned. As I predicted, they both completely ignored my existence and did not speak to me. I hid in my room in the end. I eventually sent a message to my brother explaining how I felt, and he said sorry. But all he could say is he is having a hard time and does not know how to handle his emotions. It is not fair because it is always about him. He has been treating me like this since I was about 10 years old, and it is always about his emotions. Yet they cannot seem to fathom that I have feelings too. They tell me to be mature, but I am basically still a teenager while he is a full-grown man. It bothers me that my dad will always jump to his defense, even though my dad is basically my best friend. I know my dad loves me with all his heart. I even heard him say I am his favorite to his ex-girlfriend. So that is why I do not understand why he defends my brother all the time. For a bit of context, I do not have a mother who can help me, and my brother has been babied his whole life. He is the only son and is basically a 30-year-old jock who is always drinking and acting like a teenage boy. He is losing his money to drinking constantly, so my dad then has to fund his entire existence. He is a spoiled, 30-year-old baby. If I did this to him, I know I would not hear the end of it. I just need advice. I do not know how to handle it anymore. Am I being an asshole for reacting back? Should I be more considerate? I just cannot tell if I really am being dramatic or if they are the mean ones. He's a 30-year-old adult and doesn't get to abuse teenage relatives just because he can't handle his emotions. Your brother and dad are behaving very badly towards you, and staying in this situation is not a good idea. Tell your dad that he failed to protect you from bullying and that if it happens again, you won't be around when your brother is. If it does happen again, quietly leave with as little drama as possible and consider putting your brother on a no-contact status. Am I the jerk for asking for money I was owed almost a year ago? To summarize my story, one of my family members asked to borrow money from me. I gave her $150. About a week later, she asked for $300, and then a month after that, she asked for $400. She promised to pay me back. I realized she was struggling at the moment because of her poor financial decisions, such as getting tattoos and paying for her friends' dinners, which often included 7 to 10 people. I gave her the option to repay the whole $850 by buying me an item worth $300, and she agreed, but told me to wait. A month and a half went by. I asked again, "When are you going to get the item?" She asked if I could wait, and I replied that she could pay me $100 per week instead. She paid me $100 for 1 week, then ignored and blocked me for about a month. I managed to get her mother to tell her to contact me, and she did. She complained about me being annoying for wanting my money back and said I was impatient, which I clearly was not. During that time, she still got tattoos and paid for her friends' events. She then said she would rather have her mother pay the rest of the money to me than deal with me and told me to go away. She blocked me for about a month. Her mother did not pay me at all. One of our good friends died, and we saw each other at the funeral. I was a little angry, but I quickly let it go because it was not appropriate to get mad at a friend's funeral. A year passed by, and I asked her mother if she had paid her back. Her mother refused to tell me, saying I should not worry about it. I asked my family member if she paid her mother anything, and she told me to ask her mother. I replied that it was none of my business. She got upset and asked why I was bringing up old issues. I told her it was because I had not received all my money back for a whole year. She accused me of being pathetic for asking for money and said I was trying to get money from her mother, who was going through a rough time. She claimed she had not asked for more money from anyone and told me to go away, saying the ordeal was settled a year ago. I replied that it was not settled because she had ignored me. I explained that I wanted to know if she paid anything to her mother because I hoped the money would go to her mother, who had helped me. She told me to go away again and called me pathetic. This happened 2 months ago, and she is still ignoring me. All I wanted was to help her mother a bit. Your family member has played you for a sucker. Now that she has her money and doesn't need more from you, she feels free to insult you. At this point, if you have proof of the debt, you should take her to small claims court and sue for the entire remaining balance. Remember, the rule is, don't lend to family unless you're okay with never getting it back. Am I the jerk for not donating clothes to a struggling family? My mother and I have a complicated relationship. She would regularly tell me how she needed to have therapy in order to have children, which did not foster a great dynamic between us. I am currently 7 months pregnant, and it has not been easy, mentally or financially. My industry was on strike, and I was not able to find work for nearly 6 months. I am luckily employed now, but we are paying off debts and trying to prepare as best we can before the baby arrives. Naturally, this has caused a lot of anxiety. My best friend has a 5-year-old boy, and she generously gave us his entire wardrobe for ages birth to 6 months, with the promise of bigger sizes when our child needs them. We accepted with huge gratitude and promised to return them once we no longer needed them. It meant one thing we did not need to worry about was clothing. Because of this, we have asked people to please not gift us any clothes. Instead, we have provided a list of things we need and would prefer should anyone insist on giving us gifts. My mother, however, refuses to listen to this request. She has insisted on knitting a huge number of cardigans, our baby will be born in the summer, and buying outfits that match them. When asked not to, she has agreed, only to say she cannot help herself. I have had to be very firm that we do not want any more clothes. This evening she asked me if she could have some of the clothes we have to donate to a refugee family that she knows with a baby, and I did not know how to respond. It felt loaded to me, given that we have had to repeatedly ask her not to give us more clothes, as though we must have so many that they will just go to waste. I also have a nephew who is 6 months old, but she has not asked for his clothes. It feels as though she is challenging me to either donate what I have or admit that I do not have enough so she can be greenlit to keep buying us more. While I would love to help a struggling family if I could, it would feel like I was putting on someone else's oxygen mask before my own. I cannot tell if my anxiety at this request is reasonable or tainted by what feels like an uncomfortable guilt trip that my mother has designed. This is our first baby, and I do not know if we will need everything my friend gave us. Am I the bad person for not giving away what we have to a family who may be struggling more than we are? You are not the jerk. You've already promised to return the clothes once your baby outgrows them, so giving them away isn't really an option. Plus, your mom's cardigans aren't seasonally appropriate for your baby, which is why she's pushing for you to give away some of the clothes you have. Your mom should respect your boundaries, and congrats on your baby, by the way. Am I the jerk for blowing up at my stepdad? I, a 14-year-old male, have been getting increasingly angry with my stepdad, a 53-year-old male. He and my mom were married for about 9 years, and recently his cheating was revealed. They are trying to work things out, and I have been as understanding as I can be. I leave them alone when they need to talk. I watch my little sister and am trying to be nice to him despite the fact he walked out on my family. Their relationship has been on and off for months now. He'll leave in his truck to see the other woman, who lives a couple of hours away, leaving us high and dry until he needs my mom to manage his company. I've put up with it for my mother. Now, here is where I couldn't stand it anymore. My mom had to leave for a couple of states away because my older sister was having a baby. Instead of letting me stay with a friend, trust me, I begged, or letting me go to my grandma's, she decided it was best I was left alone with him for a week. I was incredibly upset about this, obviously. I was just trying to get through it. I woke up at 6:00 a.m. and went to school without any conflict every day. Then, whenever I got home, I would find him absolutely wasted. My mom told me to tell my grandma if this happened, but I didn't feel comfortable being alone in the house with an angry man while waiting for her, so I chose to keep the peace and keep my sister safe from him. This repeated for a couple of days, and whenever I wasn't in my room, he would nag me. He would ask me over and over again, "Why are you mad at me?" and "What did I do?" which was a topic I was trying to avoid. I would just tell him I wasn't mad and that he was fine. On multiple occasions when I said this, he went, "I don't even want to talk to you anyway. You're so negative all the time." Finally, after this happened for maybe 3 days, he was driving me home from theater. He continued with his questions and yelled at me. I couldn't stand it that he would yell at me, so I finally told him off. To summarize the argument, I kept a very cool tone without any yelling, just being stern. I said, "Everyone has told you what's wrong. You just want me to feel better." I also said, "You're an alcoholic, you're lazy, you're cheating on my mom, who is the nicest woman in the world, and you clearly just don't care." When he said he loved our family, I said, "You say that, but you don't have any actions to back it up." He went quiet. I felt bad for being so angry, but he wouldn't stop asking what he did, so I gave him my honest answer. When I told my mom, she scolded me, saying, "You didn't have the right to call him a piece of shit." She said I could have handled it better, as if I had any other choices. They refused to acknowledge that I am a teenager who can't regulate my emotions and that I was totally in the right for being upset. Although I feel bad, was I not in the right? They are trying to repair their relationship, but he won't stop drinking or leaving, and he continues to be awful to my mom with the things he says. So, am I the asshole? You did nothing wrong here at all. He pushed your buttons, and there's no way he didn't know why you're mad at him. This is ultimately your mom's battle. She should not be exposing you and your sister to someone like this. If your mother doesn't want you using adult language, maybe she should stop putting you in a situation where you have to be the adult. Am I the jerk for screaming at my friend after they made a joke that offended me? For context, my friend and I had been close for about 3 years. She has always made jokes about me, my boyfriend, and my dad. My dad is pretty wealthy, and at my school, it is known that he has money, so I am currently teased about my dad with things like daddy's money. This Monday, my friend, who we will call Jane, said something about wanting a sugar daddy and wanting my dad as her sugar daddy. I said my dad wasn't available since he is already seeing someone, and he is way too old for her. She said something pretty inappropriate, which I won't repeat here, but it was fairly graphic. I didn't hear it at first, and she was reluctant to tell me, but her friends quickly told me and I was shocked. I told her it wasn't funny, and she started to apologize, but it was not a real apology, just an apology to get it over with and forget it. Since this wasn't the first time she had done something like that, I didn't let it slide. She started apologizing again after classes, but I told her to leave me alone. The next day at lunch, she came to see me again and started apologizing. I again told her to leave me alone as I didn't want to speak to her. She told me to get over it since it had been a day, which is when I got mad. I got up, looked her straight in the eyes and started screaming at her. I told her that when I say anything about the millions of horrible guys she talks with and has gotten hurt by even with my warnings, I'm always the problem and she can be mad at me. But when she makes a very distasteful joke about me, my boyfriend, or my dad, since it's happened multiple times where she made bad jokes, but I didn't do anything about it, I'm not allowed to be mad at her. She looked shocked and quickly left. The evening after that, I noticed that her name was off my Snapchat list and realized she had unadded me. I didn't do anything about it since I said what I said, and she didn't like it, so she made the decision to leave. I was still pretty hurt that she threw a 3-year friendship down the drain, even though I got pretty mad at her. Am I the asshole? It looks like this friendship has run its course. Her apologizing and then telling you to get over it later is pretty insincere. She didn't care how deeply her comments upset you and was demanding forgiveness just because it's been over a day. Maybe you two are just not compatible as friends, and it's better to let it dissolve. Am I the jerk for telling their family a big loan is a huge deal? My son is dating their daughter, so our families have been getting really close. My son's girlfriend's family is Indian. Their family is full of doctors and engineers, and they have done really well for themselves. Both of their children are going to be doctors, and their son is in medical school. They asked me why my children do not go to medical school, as my son seemed interested in it. I told them that I advised my son not to do it because of the amount of loans he would have to take out. It would be over $300,000 since we cannot pay for his tuition, and that is just too much money to take out. They said, "What is the big deal? You should support him anyway, and he'll pay it off when he becomes a doctor." They mentioned that their son is going to take out around $400,000 in loans, and they are not concerned. He is going to a top university, but still, that is a considerable amount of money. I noticed they had a really relaxed view on paying loans back. When I brought it up, they would just say their children will pay it all back, but they did not seem all that concerned. I told them that it is a lot of money, and it is not something to be so lax about. I would be stressed if that were my child starting off their academic life with so many loans. It is not like they have a ton of money where they could easily pay that off. I said I do wish the best for their children, but while my son and daughter are smart, I would not want them doing that. I turned to their children and said they needed to start saving money immediately and work jobs, so they can start paying those loans off before they accumulate interest. Their family got offended. They said, "Our children need to be focused on school. They can pay off their loans once they graduate. Right now, they need to be focused on their studies, not paying back loans." They also said people here do not understand the value of education. I just thought it would be smart for them to have a job. I know their daughter does not work and is focused on school. It seems like loans or her parents pay for expenses. Maybe this is a cultural thing, but I felt like I insulted them with what I said. Am I the asshole for telling them that loan money is a big deal and to start paying it off immediately? Supporting your kids in their dreams is important, which you lack. They're right. Why would their daughter get a low-wage job now when focusing on medical school will get her a $400 skin one in a few years? Advising against such a loan shows a sad expression of non-confidence. You don't get too far in life without risking something. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.